PokerStatic.com. We bring you the interviews you want to hear. Now with your hosts, Bret Oliverio and Eric Bickel, the Poker Static Hot Seat.
What's up? Thanks for checking out the Poker Static Hot Seat. Bret Oliverio with Eric Bickel. And our guest tonight is a guy that I think everybody's been looking forward to hearing from, at least in an interview. There he is. It's Joe Sebok. Of course, you know Joe is a poker player, and he represents UB. And, I mean, about a week ago, sort of your world's kind of turned upside down. Travis McCarr decides to call into Donk Down Radio and sort of, you know, give his side of things and sort of unleash some stuff that people hadn't heard yet. So why don't you talk a little bit about the last week for you? How did you hear about it? You know, was one of those things when you did hear about it, was there a lump in your throat where you're like, oh, man, here we go? What was it like for you?
Well, it's interesting because it didn't really rock our world necessarily. And I guess when I say our, I'm talking about myself and Paul Leggett, you know, the COO over at UB, because this is something that we want. You know, we want this information to come out. You know, and of course, I'm always a little concerned, oh, man, is there going to be something that comes out that I don't know about? But the truth is, with all of the different work that I've done over the last year and a half, I mean, we want a guy like Travis to come out. I mean, we want more people to come out and provide this information. Because from our point of view, what that information is going to do is it's just going to sort of push the old regime further into the light, you know, and show all the things that they did. And it really isn't going to do anything to sort of I call them the new guys, which is Paul and obviously the current owners. You know, so did I have a lump in my throat? I mean, obviously on some level, it'd be nice if the story just went away. But if something has to happen, I'm fine with a guy like Travis coming up because we always feel like it's just going to be more information and good information that's going to come out.
I guess the big thing that I got from listening to that interview, and I thought it was very interesting, and clearly I'm not an expert on UB and all of the scandal through the years, but I guess the big thing that came out was this email that may or not have existed between Paul and I don't know what's the guy's username on 2+2, like Brainwash Dodo or something, where it seemed to indicate that Paul was willing to sort of play ball and pay the guy off to be quiet, and that just really raises red flags for people. I know that Paul responded on his blog to that. That's basically the crux of the issue. Is Paul part of sort of the old regime and you don't even really realize it, Joe?
Right. Well, and obviously I don't believe that, but I understand. I mean, I think it's a valid question. You know what I mean? Obviously with everything that's gone down over the years, you know, it's certainly valid. There's no question about that. You know, and so when that information came out, I just went to Paul and I said, hey, man, you know, what's up? Did you write this? And he said, you know what, I probably did. He said, I don't remember because I write so many emails. But he's like, I'm sure that I talked to Zoltan about that stuff. You know, I'm sure that we discussed different things. I think one thing that people kind of forget is that just because a company, you know, doesn't want information to get out, it doesn't necessarily mean that it's cheating information or that it's information that's going to implicate people that are there. There's just sensitive information that private companies have, you know. So it makes perfect sense to me that if this guy had this information and Paul reached out to him, that he would try to keep him on sort of the line, you know, and say, well, don't post this stuff. Let's see what happens. Let's see what happens. And maybe even consider paying this guy just to make the thing be quiet. You know, I mean, that to me isn't that weird that somebody would think about doing that stuff. Now, had he actually done it, had he gone through and paid him off, obviously we have sort of a worse situation at that point. But he was really honest with me. He said, yeah, man, you know, I'm almost positive I wrote it. I'm definitely sure that we talked about that stuff. So that's no question. And so I just said, hey, man, just write that then. Just write that in the blog. Just be totally, totally honest. Because in my mind, that's so much of what sort of the current regime has been guilty of. You know, not so much that they cheated or they try to do these things, but when these situations come up, they always go, oh, man, or in the past they've always said, oh, man, what should we do? We don't know what to do. We don't know what to do. Rather than just say, hey, just be honest, man. Like, you guys made some mistakes. You screwed some things up. But that doesn't make you the cheaters. That just makes you the company that sort of panicked and didn't know what to do. And so you screwed up. And that crime is 1,000 times less than obviously the cheating or actively helping these guys cheat, you know, or anything like that.
So you find it plausible that, and it feels okay in your stomach, when you're talking to Paul, and you obviously have a relationship with him, so I can understand how sort of difficult it is. But when Paul says, listen, I may have done this, and it wasn't because I was trying to hide cheating information, it was because, hey, I don't know what the information could be that a company wouldn't want out there, but that seemed plausible enough to you that it's worth the grief that you're getting in the poker community. Because at some point, I think, Joe, you have to evaluate this, right? I mean, you tell me and go, is the juice worth the squeeze? It's a phrase we say a lot.
For sure. For sure. I agree 100%. In terms of the plausibility, I can say this, and it's sort of bizarre, but I've actually been blackmailed over some things before that it's nothing that I've done or I've been embarrassed about, but I've been blackmailed. So I have this unique set of experience that sort of goes along with this. And so it makes perfect sense because I considered paying the dude just to make it go away. I totally kept him on the line. I told him I was going to pay him. I sent him emails. I've gone through that stuff. So at least in terms of the plausibility, it makes perfect sense that it could go down like that. In a perfect world, it's interesting because when I first signed, one of the first things that I wanted to get out was, hey, Paul, we need to sit down and I need you to admit that you guys have made a lot of mistakes, man. Like, you just absolutely screwed the pooch in a million different ways. That doesn't mean you cheated, but we have to be able to say, hey, we screwed up, And probably this email communication is one of those things. Hey, we screwed up. We probably shouldn't have dealt with this guy, but we did. It doesn't make us, Russ Hamilton's godchildren. I mean, it doesn't mean that we cheated with him, but let's own up to it and say, hey, we did this thing. It's not the perfect situation, obviously. I think that goes without saying. But again, it's a far cry from the actual, did these guys do this cheating? Did they help these guys cheat? And that's always been my stance. Hey, if I ever find any information that says that these guys did this or Paul's lying to me or anything like that, then I'll leave. And I've said that for a long, long time to all of the different detractors and the different people who have been saying, well, you should resign. All I've ever said is, man, post your information. Like whether it's Travis McCarr or Haley Hintz or any of the number of radio shows, just post your stuff, man. I mean, if you have information that is damning, which is more than just saying, hey, we know that he's lying. Because I have people who know that he's lying, know he's telling the truth. Everybody has, stories are stories, man, especially in something this big that's gone on for this long. Just post something, man. It's just so hard for me to believe. What is your relationship with Paul? I don't know, frankly. I should know, but what's his background? Where did he come from? He's just sort of this guy that all of a sudden out of nowhere is sort of the front man for this company. Right. You know that when you meet people, sometimes you get a feeling in your gut, oh, this guy's a sales guy, or this guy, I don't trust this guy, or this guy I do trust, right. That sort of thing. Right. Where did he come from? What's his deal? Well, he came up in gaming, so he was doing, and when I say gaming, it could be poker, it could be online gaming, all this kind of stuff. And then he actually ended up doing consulting for AP sort of when all of this stuff went down, And then I think it was really just one of those things that was sort of right place, right time. He ended up taking on a lot of the spokesperson type things. And then when they got rid of sort of a lot of the old guys, he just kind of got elevated. And so, yeah, it really was kind of one of those, wow, like where did this guy come from? All of a sudden he's sort of leading this company. So it's interesting in that sense. And I'm happy that you brought up sort of the whole concept of, is this guy a salesman? Can you trust him? Right. Because when I first met Paul, I was like, wow, this guy's really smooth. You know what I mean? And to be completely honest with you, my first thought was, wow, this guy could probably pull it off if he wanted to. Mm-hmm. And that's just being 100% honest. Mm-hmm. I was just like, this guy, he's been through the wars, like he can talk. And sort of now that I've gotten to know him over a year and a half, he and I certainly have become friends. And I've had the most candid conversations where I literally have just said, flat out, Paul, you need to tell me if something's going to come out. Like, this is about our professional relationship. This is about our personal relationship. If something's going to come out, if there's something that I don't know, you need to tell me so that I can deal with it, so that I can extricate myself out of the situation, or I can just move away, just as a man-to-man. I've sort of called him out like that. And he's always said, you know what, it's not going to happen. And to his credit, at least to this point, it's never happened. It's always just been conjecture. It's always been somebody saying something's going to happen, or somebody claiming they have all this wealth of information like Travis is saying, and me always just saying, just post it, man. Just put it up. Show everybody. Show the masses, man. First off, a couple more things about Paul. How old is he? What kind of business mind does he have? Or is he a guy who's sort of just learning on the fly and
making mistakes and sort of working through them? Like, what sort of guy is he from that standpoint?
Well, I think that, it's a little bit of everything. I think that the truth is everyone in the poker industry is somewhat learning on the fly. And I think with Paul, that's probably even more exaggerated just by the fact that, none of this crazy stuff has ever happened. Certainly everything is sort of on the fly. And that's in addition to our industry only being about 10 years old. So from that standpoint, I definitely think that he's sort of learning on the job, so to speak. But, I just can't. I have nothing but good things to say about the guy. I've never, for all these people that say that they know he's lying and they've caught him in these lies, I've never caught him in anything like that. And I guess people have to make a decision if they trust me or not. But I've never caught him in anything. That's just the truth.
Right.
Every time a situation has come up, it's always been something, even with this brainwashed dodo, where I've just said, hey man, no worries. Just tell the truth. You didn't do anything that is evil. The fact of the matter is there's all kinds of crazy stuff going around, and you didn't know what to do. You thought about this, you thought about that, you thought about paying. Just tell the truth. Don't lie about it. And that's always been my angle. Just say, yes, I wrote this. There's no reason to be ambiguous. There's no reason to say, maybe I talked to him, maybe I didn't. If you're pretty sure you did, then just say, yeah, man, I did. And then we'll move forward from there.
Joe, how do we know, and I guess that you're convinced of this, but the poker community that's skeptical isn't, how do we know that the old UB owners aren't still connected? How do we know that? How are you convinced that the old owners, because just from an outsider's perspective, you look and go, well, why would they give up the golden goose? Even if they were trying to be clean, why don't they just try to be clean and still own it, have a different guy front it, and still just keep clocking those checks? Right? It's just free money coming in.
Well, I think, and I can't speak for the old owners, of course, but I think that they felt the heat is what I think happened. I think they knew this was going to go down, and basically the timeline was they sold because they, said, wow, we got to get out of this. The new guys sort of bought it and then said, wow, what are we going to do with this? This thing is a mess, at this point. But to your question, how do I know? How do I physically know? I'm not going to bullshit you guys. I don't physically know.
If there's not a paper trail, don't you have to file documents when a company is sold?
Oh, yeah, no, all of that exists. Of course, but, by the letter of the law, somebody could say, well, that can be made up too. So it's hard to, obviously there's a paper trail and all of that if you want to follow it through. Right. But then people say, well, these companies weren't real or these companies weren't real. So, obviously we've seen that happen in history, so you can't deny that. So that's why I'm always allowing for the possibility. Right. And I always say this about Paul too. I believe Paul. But does that mean that Paul couldn't absolutely not be lying to me? Absolutely not. I'm not going to be, such a schmuck that I'm going to say, well, this is the way it is, period. There's no way. They could be doing this mastermind plan that is absolutely incredible, and they just haven't left a shred of evidence. It's definitely possible. You have to allow for that at least, small percentage of a chance. It's just not what I believe, and it's not what I have sort of found through interviewing people and talking to people over I guess it's been 18 months now.
How much of Paul's energy, and your energy, frankly, is being put towards this scandal as compared to day-to-day operations of the company?
Well, it's interesting. It goes in spurts, right? So for about the first year, this was what I did. This is why we were able to get the Wicked Chop story out. We were able to interview all those people. We started the hand histories flowing. We got the account names. This is literally what I did. All day, every day. So for the last 6 months, I think I wrote a blog probably about 6-7 months ago where I basically just said, I don't know where else I can take this. You know what I mean? I'd spoken to everyone that was willing to speak to us. We interviewed everybody. We'd done as many interviews as possible. We tried to communicate with as many humans that knew anything about this as we could. So I kind of said, I don't know what else to do. I don't have a police force. I don't have, interrogation capabilities where we can go round up people and make them talk. We can only talk to people that would talk to us, which obviously makes it pretty difficult because people that are guilty aren't typically going to talk to you, so it makes it pretty tough to get the whole story out. So from that point, for the last 6-7 months, actually, it's been pretty quiet until this Travis thing sort of jumped up in the last week. It's been sort of day-to-day stuff, actually running the company, focusing on marketing or the pro team or different things. And obviously, Paul has a totally different set of responsibilities that I don't have anything to do with. But yeah, in the last week, it's funny because I'm sort of brushing up. I've done a couple interviews and I kind of feel like I'm out of practice, because I'm getting asked questions and I'm like, oh man, I forgot. I almost kind of forgot what did happen. It was like, so long ago, about a year. So I'm kind of slowly getting back into it now.
Go ahead. Real quick, Eric, has any part of you over the last week, just listening to the interview on Donk Down, seeing the emails, has any part of you just said to yourself, you know what, I'm just going to get out of this, move on, find a new job? I mean, obviously you're a .com guy. You have a degree from Cal. I mean, there's a million things you could do. Has that sort of crossed your mind or not at all?
Well, no, I mean, it always crossed my mind. I mean, I wouldn't be lying. I mean, when I took the UB job, I knew that it was going to be difficult, so I'm not a company man in that. It's funny because I always get accused of being this company man and I'm going to help front and all this stuff. But of course, I mean, this is not easy, man. A lot of people have decided that they hate me or, I'm a liar, or some people even say I'm a cheater. I mean, just all kinds of stuff, which is definitely not true and could never be true. So it definitely crosses my mind, wow, should I get out of this, should I not? But at the end of the day, I'm kind of trying to stay true to my word, which is if someone ever can show me something that these guys are actively doing this stuff or not even actively anymore. I mean, if somebody showed me something that said that they, and when I say they, I'm talking about the new company, the new owners, Paul, et cetera. If somebody can show me something that they, scraped hand histories or they deleted hand histories or they doctored hand histories or they did any of these sort of like really heinous crimes, then I would leave. But to this date, I haven't seen any of that stuff. And I almost feel like worse for leaving without seeing that stuff. Since I said all I need is somebody to show me this stuff and I'll leave, now I feel like I'm getting run off. And anybody that knows me knows that I don't like to shy away from things. So I don't want to just leave, when I feel like I don't want to leave just because there's heat. I want to leave actually because there's a fire. And to this point, I haven't seen the fire with the new regime, and so that's kept me here. And UV's been great to me. I mean, I'm not going to lie. As I said, I haven't caught them in any of these stuff. I mean, and we work really, really well together. So I'm still kind of waiting for that other shoe to drop if it's going to,
Is this, I don't want to, it's none of my business, but is this a really lucrative deal for you? You're well known in the poker community. You got 1 million followers on Twitter. People, you could work for another site. Your father could help you. Who wouldn't want their dad to help them?
Right.
Is this a deal where it's really, because the outsider's perspective, the skeptical is, man, I feel bad for Joe. He's gotten himself in this position. They're probably paying him a ton of money, and now he's kind of almost, he can't extricate himself from this. Is it that?
Right.
Are you making so
He's
much?
got a beachfront condo.
Yeah. Are you making so much now?
I'm jealous, by the way.
That your whole life would come crashing down if you left UB?
Well, no. I mean, my life definitely would not come crashing down. It wouldn't come down to that. And obviously, I'm not going to discuss my contract necessarily. But it's, it's bigger than that, because the fact of the matter is that, UB does have a lot of exciting things going on which aren't the scandal. And that really is something that the whole time I wanted to get involved to sort of hopefully close this chapter, but then move on. Because the truth of the matter is, at UB, I do have a lot of say in how we do a lot of things. Whether it's marketing, whether it's the pro team, a whole host of stuff. I mean, we talk about everything. And there's no way that I would have that ability, at a Full Tilt or a Poker Stars or anything like that. So from that standpoint, moving forward, actually, the future is extremely, extremely bright. This scandal is always something that's going to hang over us, and it sucks, and, we try to deal with it appropriately, and sort of that's, of course, my job, and that's what I said when I came on. But from that standpoint, I mean, definitely my life's not going to come crashing down, but I really like my job at UB. I mean, I have a lot of fun independently of this scandal, and we do a lot of stuff. It has nothing to do with this scandal. I kind of feel like the community and certain, it's not even the community, but the small portion of the poker community that is so enthralled with the scandal, they don't understand that, we actually run a business. We do a lot of other things. I mean, we have promotions. We're talking about the pro team. We have, all these different things that we're working on. So it's not just the scandal. We don't just sit in a room and talk about the scandal all day. To us, the scandal is over. And I'm always happy to sit down and answer questions. But in my mind, until, something new comes up, and again, Travis coming out of the woodwork is great. I just want to see what he has. Because at this point, it's just another guy saying he's got a bunch of stuff that's going to bring down UB. And I've just been hearing this for years. So, I mean, I just wish somebody would pull the trigger if that's the case.
What about some of the accusations? I mean, had you heard that, Annie Duke was lent money for a house from Russ Hamilton, and then when everything shit hit the fan, she decided, I don't have to pay him back. I mean, had you heard that stuff before, or was that just, were you blindsided by a lot of it?
I never heard it. I didn't know that at all. I had no idea. And, that's probably something that Annie's going to have to deal with.
I mean, am I botching the story, Eric?
No, that's the allegation.
Pretty close.
Yeah.
Yeah,
okay.
That's pretty close. I definitely had never heard that, and I kind of tried to just focus on the pieces that come out that relate to UB. Because whatever, to current UB, because whatever Annie did or didn't do, or Russ or this or that, I mean, that really has nothing to do with me, and it has nothing to do with sort of the current company. So it's kind of tough. I don't really want to get sucked into all that stuff, and I have no clue what happened. And everyone's going to the truth of the matter is, at the end of the day, eventually, everyone who did anything is going to have to answer to it. I mean, all this stuff is going to come out eventually. I guess the only difference is just that I believe that's not, those people that are going to have to answer are not going to be Paul Leggett. It's not going to be the current guys running the company.
You're basically putting your reputation in Paul Leggett's hands. That's what it comes down to.
For sure, on some level.
Yeah.
Which is, again, we've had very candid conversations.
Right.
And I'm definitely not a weak-willed or a weak personality person.
Right.
So, I mean, I've made it very clear what the situation is, and sort of laid it all out on the line several times. But in essence, you're absolutely right. And I think that goes true for any sponsored person in poker. I mean, at the end of the day, we're all putting ourselves in the hands of the people who run these companies.
Right.
It's just mine happens to be more public, and there happens to be more mistakes in the past.
I know.
But you're absolutely right, man. I mean, at the end of the day, you're right.
Now, I know the conversation. There's no question. Here's the conversation. It's Joe going to Paul. Don't fuck me. Don't fuck me on this. My whole reputation in poker is based on you not fucking me. Don't you dare fuck me. That's the conversation, right?
Well, it's not quite that, but it's just making sure that he understands, hey man, exactly how you guys put it. I mean, I'm putting my name on the line here, and I'm willing to accept that we made a lot of mistakes. I'm willing to say that. To me, at the end of that's what we're talking about, right? That really is what we're talking about. When I first signed, we admitted that current UB had fucked up, right? They had purchased this company that was full of holes. It was basically like a Swiss cheese company. And they said, holy shit, what do we do? What do we do? This is unbelievable. All this money was stolen. There's this super user stuff. What do we do? And what do? They panicked. They totally panicked. They tried to cover it up. And the most unfortunate thing for them is that them trying to help themselves indirectly helped the people who did the cheating. Mm-hmm. So now all of a sudden you're in a basket with the same people. And that was really, really where they screwed themselves.
Right. So
getting them to admit that initially allowed me, because if I sat down with Paul and the team and they were like, hey man, look, we didn't do anything, we did this, I would have been like, I'm sorry, I can't be here, there's no way. Right. But they said, you're absolutely right, we screwed the pooch, we screwed this so bad, we should not have covered this up, we should have just said, hey man, this is a mess, it's not our mess, but it is a mess. But they panicked. Now that mistake is very, very different from the cheating, like I said before. And in my mind, that's sort of where I think my main disagreement comes with the people that are so incensed with everything, is they want to put everyone together. And I'm not saying, hey, current UB is perfect, they did everything great. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying there are two different groups. And the mistakes that they made are vastly different. One is up here and one is down here.
What are the mistakes that the current ownership made that you've acknowledged all along?
Well, I mean, just basically when they had first come into the company, not just admitting, hey, this happened. It's sort of like a little kid, right? Like when you get caught, maybe you break a lamp, and then you go, oh man, oh God, I don't want my mom to find out about this lamp. And then all of a sudden, the lie gets a little bigger, and you go, oh man, I wasn't even supposed to be in this room. Now I can't even say I was in this room.
But is this
right?
like?
And then you're like, oh.
I get you. But we're talking about?
It gets bigger and bigger and bigger.
Right. But are you talking about specifically about how they responded to hand histories and their ability to get them out, and like where some of them may be? Is that what you're referring to?
Yeah, sort of just everything along those lines. I mean, it should have just been, hey, this thing is a mess. We're gonna try to clean it up. It's not our mess, but here. Let's try to fix this. And that wasn't the situation. Right. The situation was, wow, let's try to handle this internally. Let's try to keep this quiet. And the problem is if you keep doing that, suddenly, you're the little kid who has like 50 lies that all of a sudden you're like, God, I wish I just said I broke the goddamn lamp, because then it wouldn't be anything near what it's become,
Have you guys seen a dip in traffic since Travis's interview? Or if things business as usual or nothing?
It's funny. It's not even just the scandal. I mean, obviously we talked internally about Phil and Annie when we parted ways, and we were concerned then, oh, wow, is this going to be a dip in traffic? But the truth is that UB is going strong. The company has been doing well, and it is, even as the spokesperson for the company, it's almost mind-boggling, right, that all of this stuff has happened, but the company continues to do well. The community's good. People want to play on the site. But from our standpoint, it really hasn't affected business, which is actually really, really interesting, because I've had conversations too where the smart thing from a business standpoint, to be completely honest with you guys, is for me to never do these interviews. For me to just flat out say, we're not doing this. It's a very small amount of people that are incensed about this stuff, and it's not affecting our business. So we're just keeping it sort of in the press. But conscientiously, I can't do that, because I just feel like, man, we want to make these people happy, which is probably a business mistake on our part, but it's sort of a human decision that I've made, which is just, I want this information to come out, even if it's just the right thing to do.
Right.
Even if it's going to sort of hurt our business, which it doesn't seem like it has, but obviously it has the potential to. I still want this information out, and Paul feels similarly, because he feels like he's getting accused and he's lumped in with sort of Russ and all these different people that have been implicated in the cheating when, he didn't do it. So, we're kind of in the same boat with that stuff.
Could you talk about Annie and Phil and those guys leaving? I mean, I know you're probably not going to disclose everything that you know, but did that make you feel uncomfortable? I mean, two longtime people that were associated with the company moving on?
It really didn't. Obviously from sort of a business standpoint, you're a little concerned. Obviously there was only a handful of, television poker personalities, and we just lost two of them. So from that standpoint, it definitely was in my mind. But the truth is, by the time, we sort of parted ways, and Annie moved on and Phil moved on, I kind of knew more about all this stuff than they did. Other than their personal involvement, like Annie, we were talking about earlier with that. I don't know anything about that. But I had done more work on this stuff, so I was probably better versed in it at that point. So I wasn't thinking, wow, okay, they're getting out of here because stuff's about to go down. That really never kind of entered my mind, because I feel like I have a better sort of handle of that stuff than they did when they left anyway.
Have you heard from Prahlad over the last week? Because, it took him so long to sign with the site. He finally makes that huge leap, and then just a few weeks later, sort of this whole debacle goes down. Did he call you sort of in a panic, or maybe you haven't heard from him?
Right. No, we actually had a big UB dinner after day one at the LAPC here in Los Angeles. So, this was sort of topic one. Everybody wanted to know what's going on, what's the deal with this cat. And I basically told them exactly what I told you guys, which is our standpoint is that we want him to release this stuff. We feel like this is not going to implicate us. It's not going to put, the current company in a bad light. It's simply going to bring sort of the old regime into the light a little more. So that was everyone's feeling. And the truth is, sort of similarly to, the way that I've put myself in Paul's hands, the pro team has sort of put themselves in my hands. They've said, well, Sebok, we trust you. We believe that if you see something coming, you're going to tell us what's up. So, we're just going to put our faith in you. And that was sort of how the conversation went. But, of course they have to be concerned. Anytime new stuff comes out, everyone's going to say, wow, what's this all about? What's going on?
Do you think, by and large, that the allegations that Travis has brought out there in these interviews of late, do you think that they're true?
Well, I guess it depends on which allegations.
In other words, do you think he's a liar? Do you think he's a liar?
No. I think that it is Travis, and I think that most of what he's saying is true. I just think that it's going to end up being, like former guys. I think really the holy grail is this tape, right? Really we want this 6-hour or whatever tape. Let's just get that thing and put it up.
With the 6-hour tape, the 6-hour tape is the alleged meeting with Russ and some of the guys about what was supposedly happening in the meeting. They were deleting hand histories and doctoring things and doing everything they could to cover up the scandal.
Right, supposedly all that stuff.
With Paul there?
Whoever's on that, I don't know. I've never heard it. I don't know who is on the tape, but I wish that he would put it up.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because that's going to tell us a lot right there, obviously. That's going to really tell us a lot. Like, if that was put up and then all of a sudden Paul Leggett's in a room talking with Russ Hamilton about doctoring hand histories, game over.
That's it.
I mean, I don't know what else we need to know.
Right.
That pretty much tells us everything we need to know.
Right.
You know, so I wanted to put it up, but what I think is it's going to be Russ and you know, some other people, you know, obviously that have been mentioned, Greg Pearson, you know, different people like that. And it's just going to further implicate the people that we already know are guilty.
Hey, what happened last night? You tweeted, God, I need to get off this fucking computer. This is getting sad. Well, what happened there?
I just work too much. I just work too much, man. I just take too much on. It wasn't necessarily anything to do with this particular stuff.
Oh, okay.
Just doing too much, man. I just, you know, trying to do this and do more and do stuff with UB and everything. You know, it's a great job, but it's been a lot of work, you know, and it's really shifted my focus from playing poker to now sort of, you know, trying to help as much as I can in running the company. So it's sort of changed me, obviously.
Hey, what about guys like Daniel, high-profile guys who, I mean, he's constantly tweeting about UB, this and that, companies this. I mean, I don't know if he's personally tweeted about you, but, you know, he's constantly pounding away. Do you talk to him about that, or do you just kind of ignore it?
You know, I just wish that, and I think everyone's entitled to their opinion, I just wish that they would be more educated on it. You know, because the fact is that there are two sides to things, and every time something comes up, I mean, and I take a glance at the forums, and it's so much conjecture, man. It's like 90% unprovable, untrue stuff, right? So I just wish that people, you know, and especially poker pros who like to go on about this stuff, would just learn a little more than just reading a forum. You know what I mean? Because that's sort of how the forum rats have decided. They take what they want from a story, and if it fits what they want, then it's true. Now, if it doesn't fit what they want, then they ignore that, right? And that's just not reality. I mean, I just want it to be a fair story, you know? So that's sort of what I think when I see him sort of mouthing off. I just, you know, I just wish he would be a little more educated. And not just him, but just other people. You know, I just wish they knew more and they were actually coming from a place of sort of knowledge rather than mob mentality is all.
You know, your father's gone on record. Your father's very well respected in the community, and your father's gone on record that he didn't agree with your choice to sign with UB. But you're your own man, and he allows you to do what you got to do, right? I mean, of course. Do you still have open dialogue with your dad about some of these things? When this Travis allegations, when they come out, do you get a phone call? Do you call him and say, "Hey, Pops, what do you think? You know, what should I do here?"
Oh yeah, both ways. If not, well, I guess there is a little bit of what should I do here. But both ways. He calls me, I call him. We talk about all this stuff, you know, whenever it comes out.
Right.
The nice thing about Bear is he's logical to a fault.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So, you know, he reads the forums, but he sort of disseminates what information is most likely to be true. He doesn't necessarily just go mob mentality.
Mm-hmm.
And that's changed a lot since I signed. You know, he probably wouldn't admit that, but he is more skeptical now. You know, because we get in these situations with people, you know, like Haley Hintu, who's done an incredible amount of work on this. But there's always some reason why she won't just post it, right? Mm-hmm. There's always some reason why Travis McCarr won't just post it. I mean, I don't get that. If you really have all this information and you're really sitting on this thing, just put it up. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Unless they're just trying to use it or make money or do whatever they're trying to do, you know, but I just wish it would come out, you know, and Barry and I definitely talk about that stuff all the time. I mean, certainly in the poker community, he's my biggest confidant, my biggest critic, you know, as you guys know, but he also, you know, we sit and talk through a lot of this stuff very often.
All right, my last question. Brad said that he spoke to you maybe 4 or 5 days ago. Have you spoken to Brad Booth since? Any update with his situation? Or does it stand where he sort of left off in the interview?
No, I mean, I did talk to Brad. I talked to him yesterday, and, you know, as far as his situation, I guess I'll let him answer to that. I don't necessarily want to, you know, it's something that we've worked on and, you know, we've dealt with him. So, I mean, I kind of will let him comment on it if he wants to, and if he doesn't want to, then that's sort of his decision, I think.
Well, you know, I appreciate you coming on. I know it's a pain in the ass. I know what it's like to get beaten up in the forums. Bret and I do morning radio in Washington, D.C., I know what it's like for people to take sort of, you know, half-truths and run with it, and I know it's tough.
Right.
So I respect you in a lot of ways because you made this decision to work with this company, and you're putting faith in the people that you work for. You're trusting them that what they're telling you is true until proven otherwise. And I guess at the end of the day, it comes down to prove it. If they prove it, you're out of here.
Yeah, you
right?
went with a read. You went with your read.
You're going with your gut.
Yeah, you could say that.
Right. And that's basically it, I mean, and that's how I feel about it. All I need to do is, just show me something, man. Like, I can't, and the truth is I can't continually have conversations with Paul where I'm like, are you lying? Are you lying? Like, I can't,
right.
At some point he's either like, hey, man, it's like having a girlfriend, right? Like, you either trust her or you don't.
Right.
Right? You can't check who she's talking to every day.
Right.
And that's basically what it is. I trust Paul, and I'm not going to check him every day.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So the people that say that stuff, it's almost like they don't understand a working relationship. We wouldn't have a relationship if every day, I was up his ass about this kind of stuff. I put my faith in him, and we kind of go from there, So
you sleep. Last question. You go to sleep tonight, and you're not really concerned that this 6-hour tape is going to be released, and that you're going to wake up tomorrow screwed. You don't worry about that
I hope. Well, I hope it's released. One way or the other, I hope it's released, no matter what.
Okay.
Because this information needs to come out.
Right.
Now, obviously, I believe that if it comes out, everyone, we're in good shape. It's all good. But even if it needs to come out, and oh my God, all this shit is going to go down, great. Then I can move on.
Right.
Either way, I want it to come out.
Right.
It's not something that we want to squash or hide or don't want to come out. Believe me, I desperately want this stuff to come out. You know what I mean?
Your life moves on if they release this shit.
Well, not really.
No matter what.
This thing's never going to die. Well, it'll never die, believe me. Because even if it comes out and, Paul's not on it, nobody from the current regime is on it, it's all old, it makes no difference. Like, I've gotten very, very used to it. The people that believe what they believe, it doesn't I can't convince them. It doesn't matter what I do or what tape comes out or who does what.
Right.
Even if it was Russ Hamilton and Greg Pearson and all these cats on there, and they were like, well, we got to make sure Paul doesn't find out because he's honest and he's going to lead the new company. It won't make any difference. Then they'll just say, well, Paul got into it later. There's always some new thing. So all I try to do is do the right thing. I don't really try to win people over anymore because the reasonable people are still sort of waiting for it to go one way or the other, and the people that have already made their decision, I can't win back anyway.
Right.
Gotcha. Well, listen, thanks for coming on. We appreciate it. We know you're busy, and when we called you, you were feverishly writing emails, I'm guessing, so we'll sort of let you get back to that. But
yeah, man, no worries, guys. I'm happy to come on. It's all good.
Thank you.
Cool. Thanks a lot.
Thanks. Appreciate it, Joe.
All right, guys. Take care,
Joe.
man.